Hey, T-Sippers. Mm-mm-mm. Hey, T-Sippers. Hey, T-Sippers. Oh, y'all, come on in. Hitting the like button first, please. 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 Let me see. Come on in, come on in. Come on in, come on in. What was this? There's a lot going on. So listen, I'm gonna try to, my plan, how about that? My plan is to touch bases on what's going on in the world, in the streets, see how my likes are, see how I'm appreciated. Hey, Cynthia. And then I will, if all goes well, then I'll come back with the culture. Baby, because I got a feeling. Ooh-wee. Okay, just told you exactly. Ooh, I got a feeling. Hey, Janet. Something didn't look right. Y'all remember the other day when I kept saying, my bad. Some ain't right, some ain't right. Some don't feel right. All these people popping out, da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. And then, woe and behold, we got word that Grove got shot, and then C Money. You know, my energy was all, oh, baby. I got a feeling. I got a feeling. So that's why I want to let that, let that collect a little dust. And let me go and talk about this corrupt. Man, I wonder how the people feel who voted for this administration. How do they feel right now? How do they feel? Out of line and corruption and the plan that don't include us. Oh my God, the food, the poisoning, all of that. Just like a fool. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, they openly telling you they rigged it. They rigged it. Somebody, they're saying, play this.
That was a good thing. That was a good thing.
Yeah, they rigged the whole election.
It was made during my term, my first term. And it was so sad because I said, can you imagine I'm not going to be president?
And then he telling us, Christians, I'm not one, but y'all go vote. This will be the last time.
Good thing. It was a good thing. That was quite an achievement for both of us. So I'll be president during the World Cup and during the Olympics.
Yeah, he said he rigged it. Yeah.
When we made this, it was made during my term, my first term, and it was so sad because I said, "Can you imagine? I'm not going to be president." And that's too bad. And then what happened is they rigged the election and I became president. So that was a good thing. That was a good thing. That was quite an achievement for both.
Elon Musk did it for you and then you turned on him.
During the Olympics, when we made this,
yeah.
My term, when we made this.
Everybody know that when he said one way, he tells the truth indirectly. Shit. I just don't know. And it's getting worse and worse. And there's a whole agenda. There's a whole agenda. And they are really, really, really trying to rig it again so that they can have total control. And they can, next thing you know, they're going to be talking about putting, you know, you're going to have the mark of the beast. Because if people don't think that's coming, baby boom. Baby boom. And as far as you go, sir, I don't know. See, Money, I know that you was, hold on. You had, taken up and you was cool with them folks. One you already knew had beef in the street. Y'all was cool with that, but you was young. Your brother behind you, but I don't know. I know that they say that you, no. It's a whole bunch going on, y'all. Russia did it in 2016. You right, Justice T. And Elon did it the second go round. You're absolutely right. I know all of these people. CB, CMG, BGE, HC. Who else? No. Yeah. You know, it's a whole bunch of backdooring going on, young man. No, I know they say y'all had beef with Trula and what was the other one? Young Mob and stuff. It was a whole shootout, like multi-cars. Yeah, we gonna talk about it. We gonna get these lights up. We gonna talk about it. See Money. Frazier. Did they send somebody to go mess with Grove Hero? Grove said he think give him a month or so he'll be walking. I'm glad he cleared that up. Let me move on, move past this. give it respectful segment by itself. I was going down the road, y'all, waiting for y'all to get these likes up. People steady sliding in slowly. Y'all leave good, but when you come in, hit the like button. And I saw MMR. Yeah, it just blows my mind that
things struck you that you want to comment on.
The preponderance of evidence around vaccines and autism basically in the United States consists of 2 studies that were done by a flawed and fraudulent CDC, one on thimerosal containing vaccines and one on the MMR vaccine. Clearly, in the MMR
tell them
study,
anything
when
and
you
they'll
look
believe
at
it.
the table, it shows a statistically significant effect of the MMR when given on time. 67% more boys getting the vaccine on time get autism diagnosis than those that merely wait until 3 years of age. Now, there is a
You
whole
know
in the
what?
science around vaccines and autism that you can drive a Mack truck through. The CDC scientist, who is the lead scientist, lead epidemiologist on this MMR study, was Dr. William Thompson. He came forward to me in 2013 through a series of phone calls. And what happened was he found that African Americans were over 200% more likely, and African American males over 300% more likely to get an autism diagnosis if they got the MMR vaccine on time versus if they were received the vaccine after 3 years of age. And when they got that evidence, when they got that information, they were told directly by the supervisors on the study, Dr. Colleen Boyle and Dr. Frank DiStefano, they were ordered directly to destroy evidence and destroy federal records in violation of the Federal Records Act. That information was destroyed. Dr. Thompson shared that information with me directly. I repeated the analysis, did the exact same analysis, and I got the exact same result. African American males, when they get the MMR on time, are 3.5 times more likely to get an autism diagnosis than if you wait simply until after 3 years.
That would show a link.
That is correct.
The important part of this story is not only that, but the fact that you had federal health agency officials destroying.
And now that they're saying that, hold on.
Dr. Hooker, you probably
Now that they are saying that, I don't think I have. Very seldom have I seen little girls. It's majority of the kids that I have seen, or I know someone who has autism, typically are boys. Now that they, I mean, yeah. And the guy the other day was talking about how, you know, a long time ago, 90s and, well, yeah, in the 90s, but like in the 80s and stuff, autism wasn't a thing. Where did it come from?
and as much, if not more, research.
They have been manufacturing these.
I'm just going to let you comment on things that may have.
Oh my God, this is just blowing my mind.
The preponderance of evidence around vaccines and autism basically in the United States consists of 2 studies that were done by a flawed and fraudulent CDC, one on thimerosal-containing vaccines and one on the MMR vaccine. Clearly, in the MMR study, when you look at the table, it shows a statistically significant effect of the MMR when given on time. 67% more boys getting the vaccine on time get autism diagnosis than those that merely wait until 3 years of age. Now, there is a hole in the science around vaccines and autism that you can drive a Mack truck through. The CDC scientist, who is the lead scientist, lead epidemiologist on this MMR study, was Dr. William Thompson. He came forward to me in 2013 through a series of phone calls. And what happened was he found that African Americans were over 200% more likely, and African American males over 300% more likely to get an autism diagnosis if they got the MMR vaccine on time versus if they were received the vaccine after 3 years of age. And when they got
this is just
population growth. That's this big benefit. The key thing you can do to reduce population growth is actually improve health.
I would like to reduce the number of people on the planet because there's too many of us.
When we invest in clean energy and electric vehicles and reduce population, more of our children can breathe clean air and drink clean water.
Now, the world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. If we do a really great job on new vaccines, healthcare, reproductive health services, we could lower that. We're taking things that are, genetically modified organisms and we're injecting them in little kids' arms. We just shoot them right into the vein.
What the?
So in the next 5 to 10 years, for the next pandemic, we'll solve all
the next pandemic. Oh my God. The next pandemic. They're already planning.
By the end of the decade, we'll have 5 or more vaccines available.
Oh my God.
Because a digital currency
Y'all get the lights up, please.
Accepted. This is all
For the last 50 years, we have been running one of the largest uncontrolled scientific experiments in the world on our nation's children without their consent.
Oh, wow.
So today, the FDA is taking the following steps. Number one, establishing a national standard and timeline for the food industry to transition from petroleum-based food dyes to natural alternatives. Number two, initiating a process to revoke authorization of synthetic food colorings, including those not in production, namely citrus.
I know red has always been bad.
Within the coming weeks. Number three, taking steps to eliminate
I know, Justice T.
6 synthetic dyes on the market from the U.S. food supply. Specifically, red dye number 40, yellow dye number 5, yellow dye number 6, blue dye number 1, blue dye number 2, and green dye number 3 by the end of next year.
Lord, please.
This is 4-year-old lame movie on.
How is this tomato ketchup so thick?
Yeah, it's just.
The world today has 6.8 billion people. That's headed up to about 9 billion. Now, if we do a really great job.
Oh, wow. We don't even want to. Oh, let me show y'all. Before I get. It was one I sent to myself. I said, Lord, oh my God. Oh my God. What in the world? What in the world? Is it this one? It's this one. Oh, you gotta read it. Hold on.
Head up.
Hold on. Can y'all see that? Wi-Fi caused allegedly, possibly. Yeah, read it for yourself. So I won't say. Can y'all see that? Okay.
And it, opens your blood-brain barrier.
Do you see anything online of how it could open up your blood-brain barrier?
I don't know about how, but
That it does?
I found an article. I was trying to find the validity of it, but it has a statement on here.
Damage to the blood-brain barrier. Radio frequency radiation exposure has been shown to affect the permeability of the blood-brain barrier, as well as altering the expression of microRNA within the brain, which researchers state could lead to adverse effects such as neurodegenerative disease. Whoa.
Wow.
How come we don't know that?
There's a doctor that did a study and said that it's been expanded on researchers in China, and there's a published article here, but I was looking around the page.
They call it leaky brain.
The findings were followed by suppression, misinformation, and a shutdown of government-funded research in the United States.
And it opens your blood-brain barrier.
Do you see anything online of how it could open up your blood-brain barrier?
I don't know about how, but
That it does?
Wireless text might make us sick. Irreversible damage. Heavy metals. Okay, let's get, yeah. Yeah, I mean, you know. It's just way too much. Hold on, let's get to the topics at hand. What is this major break? Oh, it's live. Hold on. Major breaking news. Everyone anxious. Oh. Let me see this while I get set up.
I'm Mark Elias, a lawyer for the Democrats. And I need your
We gotta
help
stay woke, y'all.
in standing up against me.
And so every day he's got to do something, you know, a little bit more absurd to take people's eyes off of that. But meanwhile, people are hyper-focused.
Yeah, he got...
People are smart.
Oh, yeah, no, he got court started
They're not gonna
today.
be distracted.
And a judge said, oh, no. Yeah, let me go on over there before I get sidetracked on other stuff that's popping up now. Hold on. Let's stay woke. Y'all get the likes up, please. Please. The federal judge today said they playing in our face. They playing in our face for real. And validated the women.
Hot off the presses and breaking news, a federal judge in New York has denied the Trump administration's attempt to mislead the American people into thinking that the grand jury transcripts in the Maxwell and Epstein criminal cases are the Epstein files, and has denied
they are not the we never asked for the
transcripts released to the American people. But
never asked for them.
He does it. Judge Paul Engelmeyer in New York does a couple of critical things that advances the debate and the charges against the Trump administration for hiding and covering up the Epstein conspiracy. In the first part of his order,
hold on,
in the Trump administration's attempt to mislead the American people into thinking that the grand jury transcripts in the Maxwell and Epstein criminal cases are the Epstein files, and has denied having those grand jury transcripts released to the American people. But before he does it, Judge Paul Engelmeyer in New York does a couple of critical things that advances the debate and the charges against the Trump administration for hiding and covering up the Epstein conspiracy. In the first part of his order that I'm going to read to you, I'm going to put it up on Legal AF Substack as well. In the first part, he outlines all the ways that Ghislaine Maxwell is not a victim, but that she was convicted of heinous crimes and being involved with the rape and sexual abuse of girls. I think he does that for a reason.
Oh, yeah. He
to
breaks
set
it
the
down.
record straight. Now that he's read, I'm sure, all of the attempts by the Trump administration and others around him to rehabilitate the reputation of Ghislaine Maxwell, much to the discredit of the victims, undermining again and victimizing the victims. So there's that section of the order. Let's talk about who Ghislaine Maxwell really is based on evidence, not based on right-wing podcasters and right-wing sycophants for Donald Trump trying to make Ghislaine Maxwell's future pardon palatable. Then he goes over all the ways that the government has previously promised that they would be completely transparent and release all of the documents, 300 gigabytes of documents. Judge Engelmeyer reminds the Trump administration and the public for the public record of that as well. And then finally, he looks at the fact that there are no special circumstances present at all to undermine what's called the rule of secrecy, which generally cloaks any grand jury process in secrecy so it's not disclosed to the public for good reason. He finds no special circumstances are present and finds basically that the Trump position is laughable and demonstrably false. His words. I'm Michael Popak. These are my words.
Wasting
I'm on my
time
stud.
and money.
I'm Legal AF. I got it in my hands. I wanted to report on it right away. But the structure of the opinion and order by Judge Engelmeyer, so powerful. in what he says about the Trump position to set the record straight, and that's what federal judges should be doing. He's the second federal judge to have rejected Donald Trump's attempt to redefine for the American public in their mind that the Epstein files are the grand jury transcripts. He reminded Judge Engelmeyer, just as Judge Rosenberg did when she rejected a similar application 2 weeks ago. And there's one more that we're waiting on, because Engelmeyer is the judge that took over the case involving Maxwell. We're still waiting for the Epstein judge to make his ruling, but I'm sure it'll be about the same. Right. And as part of process, how we got here is that the government moved to unseal, stating, get this, as Donald Trump is telling his public and MAGA, there's nothing to see here. Why are we still talking about this story? You're asking, that's criminal. You're asking this story again. I'm trying to talk about tariffs.
No,
at the same time, the Bondi and the Attorney General files papers saying it's of great public importance. The public needs to know about the Epstein files, which we want people to believe is just the grand jury. And the grand jury was just one-day grand jury for Epstein, one-day grand jury for Ghislaine Maxwell. There were 2 total witnesses in the grand jury, and the only people they testified about
yes, ma'am,
sexual criminal conduct by Maxwell and Epstein, and that was it. Just summary witnesses by law enforcement. So the judge is like, there's nothing here that hasn't already been brought out to the public, and more is in the public based on lawsuits brought by the victims. But let me go through in order the structure of this. First, the judge letting the public know in his own way that not only is Ghislaine Maxwell no saint, but she is a criminal sinner.
Big time. As a matter of fact, can you see this? Hold on, let me show you. As a matter of fact, Miss Tom, I have right here, while we are being educated, custom captions, and facts are being presented to us. I have my, oh, you still can't see it. Hold on. Proud of myself. My cucumber, watermelon, antioxidant, vitamins, and electrolytes. Okay. I'm on it.
Like, there's nothing here that hasn't already been brought out to the public, and more is in the public based on lawsuits brought by the victims. But let me go through in order the structure of this. First, the judge letting the public know in his own way that not only is Ghislaine Maxwell no saint, but she is a criminal sinner when it comes to the abuse of girls and women and her involvement in it. She's not a victim. She is the henchman and the only living co-conspirator of this child sex trafficking ring. This is what he says on pages 2 through 4. On June 29, 2020, a grand jury in this district, that's in New York, returned a 6-count indictment against Maxwell, alleging that she had facilitated and participated in Epstein's sexual abuse of multiple minor girls. It charged her with conspiracy to entice minors to engage in illegal sex acts, conspiracy to transport minors with intent to engage in illegal sexual activity, transportation of a minor with intent to engage in illegal sexual activity, and 2 counts of perjury. It based these charges on her conduct with respect to 3 minor victims whom the government identified synonymously, meaning they didn't name the names. On July 8th, the grand jury returned a superseding indictment, this time adding charges of sex trafficking conspiracy, sex trafficking of a minor in the indictment, and sexual abuse from 1994 to 2004.
I know, right?
And on pages 2 to 3, Judge Engelmeyer reminds the world that Maxwell was given a trial. Sometimes you watch right-wing media and you're like, oh, why is she in prison? Well, here's why she's in prison.
Let's go.
It was before Judge Allison Nathan. She's now been elevated to the Second Circuit. There were 6 counts. And the jury on the indictment ended with a conviction of 5 of the 6 counts, including the
I saw somewhere where she got beat up in
brief,
jail.
The government's, this is on page 3.
And then they
the
removed
government's
it.
evidence included the testimony of 4 women who described the sexual abuse they had suffered as girls at the hands of Epstein and Maxwell. She's not a victim. She's a participant in deviant sexual abuse of girls. The testimony of the individuals who worked for Epstein and Maxwell, the testimony of law enforcement officials, corroborating physical evidence, including photographs of evidence and recovered from searches of Epstein's residence. That's the Epstein files, the searches of Epstein's residence. The black book for Epstein and Maxwell, corroborating records, the flight logs to the island, and the rest. The trial evidence, the judge continues, focused on 6 girls, including the 4 testifying victims who suffered abusive sexual conduct as a result of Maxwell's criminal actions. There's a reason the judge is so focused on setting the record straight on Maxwell. And credit to him, because he understands there are thousands of victims, including those who have the courage to testify against Maxwell at trial, including the ones that have been named with pseudonyms Jane, Kate, Annie, Carolyn, Virginia, and Melissa. It established that Maxwell, the
so
judge,
that Katie little girl is in there. Hey,
an
Vicky.
approximately decade-long scheme of Epstein to entice, groom, transport, and traffic numerous women and underage girls to engage in sexual activity. Maxwell helped to identify these vulnerable girls for abuse. She then, on page 4, she manipulated that trust to normalize sexual abuse by Epstein and her. See, she's involved. Maxwell and Epstein also paid young girls cash for the sexual abuse. Maxwell fostered a culture of silence. There's a reason the judge leads off with that. That's a credit to the victims. That is a testimony for the victims so that they're not lost and forgotten in this case.
Validated.
It just stays with you.
The victims. Hey, Big Pink.
And Melissa. It established that Maxwell, the judge continues, had been instrumental in an approximately decade-long scheme of Epstein to entice, groom, transport, and traffic numerous women and underage girls to engage in sexual activity. Maxwell helped to identify these vulnerable girls for abuse. She then, on page 4, she manipulated that trust to normalize sexual abuse by Epstein and her. See, she's involved.
Yeah, I gotta hear that from a reliable source.
Maxwell and Epstein also paid young girls cash for the sexual abuse. Maxwell fostered a culture of silence. There's a reason the judge leads off with that. That's a credit to the victims. That is a testimony for the victims so that they're not lost and forgotten in this case. You ever have a meal that just stays with you? Like for me, it was this spicy citrus marinated grilled fish thing I had on vacation last summer. It was perfectly charred, bursting with flavor, and I still crave it. That's exactly what Cook Unity delivers. Meals so good they stick in your memory. Cook Unity was made for adventurous eaters. Ready in as little as 5 minutes and at a fraction of restaurant prices. Premium meals for life. Talk about, for a good reason, all the times the Trump administration has said to the American people they're going to be completely transparent and that they have the Epstein files in their possession. See, the grand jury transcripts are not even the Epstein files. This is the judge announcing to the world, I'm not going to be releasing the grand jury files, but they're not the Epstein files. The Epstein files the Trump administration has. It's always powerful when a federal judge reminds you of that. So here's what he says on pages 6, 7, and 8 of the order. He says, on February 27th, 2025, the Department of Justice issued a press release. It stated that the Attorney General and the FBI had declassified and were publicly releasing files relating to Epstein's exploitation of more than 250 girls, quoting the Attorney General and the FBI, that they're committed to transparency and lifting the veil of the disgusting actions. The first phase of the files will be released. There'll be no cover-ups, no missing document, and no stone left unturned. That's Kash Patel quoted back to him by Judge Engelmeyer. In the same press release, this is on page 7. The judge said that there's a letter from the Attorney General to the FBI Director, Kash Patel, saying, by 8 a.m. tomorrow, February 28th, the FBI will deliver the full and complete Epstein files to my
For traveling and commuting, there's no other bag like this one. It brings peace of mind in a subtle way that makes...
I research a big pink
office, including video and the rest.
Yeah, I need to know. I don't want you to tell me where you got it from.
Or reports.
But yeah, I don't want to spread that just yet.
Epstein, in which it stated that there were 300 gigabytes of data and physical evidence that the FBI conducted digital searches of databases, hard drives, network drives, physical searches of squad areas, locked cabinets, desks, closets, and other areas. And that the Epstein files include a large volume of images of Epstein, of victims, victims of child sexual abuse, most of which had not been disclosed at trial, but that they had not yet recovered the client list. The judge's reason for putting this in to his order is, where are all those documents? That is what the public needs. Don't come knocking on my door to ask me to violate the rule of secrecy about grand jury transcripts that don't have anything in it except for testimony by law enforcement about Maxwell and Epstein. Release the files. He's doing a public service here.
Yeah, and see, the reason why I don't want that over here is because I know that Diddy, that's in the news about Diddy, and I don't know if somebody is switching it around and having a controlled narrative. So yeah, and I don't even want to know where you got it from, because I'm sure it's not somebody that I know that's a reliable source. That's why I don't like narratives brought over here, because a lot of them are staged and false narratives, and it could possibly be from somebody I don't believe. So yeah, until right now, only thing I know that she didn't want released was the files. But right now, and I know things can change, but right now it's saying Ghislaine Maxwell is not eligible for work release. But it could change. It may change. I don't know. But yeah, no. I don't see anything that has, in research, nothing has been reported saying that. So somebody possibly made that up. Yeah, no.
After validating, after excoriating the Trump administration for lying to the American people about releasing the Epstein files that they have not released.
So respectfully, I'm gonna remove that because I don't want somebody. Pink, Big Pink. Respectfully, I'm gonna go ahead and just remove those comments because I don't want somebody to see that and then repeat that they saw that over here. Yeah, no. Yes, I'm just, until I can do more research on it, because I don't see nothing that reflects anything like that.
Then goes over the reason, the rationale, the basis for Donald Trump coming to court asking Engelmeyer and other judges to release the grand jury files. And he says, it seems to be extensive public interest in this, which is being fomented by the Trump administration's refusal to be transparent. And remember, at the same time, you got Donald Trump saying, this is boring details. This is boring stuff. Can't we talk about tariffs? Why are we still talking about Epstein?
Thank God the judge is putting it out there
to court and files a document
to support
that says
the
it's of great
females.
public importance. The judge says, well, let me take a close look at that argument and see if that gets over the secrecy issue. And what the judge says there is, let me take a look at that issue. It says under page 15 over to 19, the government invokes the special circumstance doctrine on the ground that there is abundant public interest. Including that the public officers, lawmakers, and pundits and ordinary citizens remain deeply interested in this matter, and it's a critical part of our nation's history. Here's what the judge says about that. The government's invocation of special circumstances on page 16 of his opinion fails at the threshold. Its entire premise that the Maxwell grand jury materials would bring to light meaningful new information about Epstein's and Maxwell's crimes or the government's investigation into them is demonstrably false. The government, the court having received the government's motion to unseal and having reviewed substantial amounts of grand jury materials in camera, reveals that the government's submission in response to the court's orders are telling. This is on page 16. They belied the government's claim that the Maxwell grand jury materials contain significant undisclosed information about Epstein's and Maxwell crimes or the investigation into them. There's none of that. He said, I looked inside of that. There were one-day grand juries with one witness or two witnesses apiece doing summary evidence. They're just annotated, they're just transcripts of stuff that's either already in the public domain or doesn't compare to the 300 gigabytes that you say that you haven't released to the public. So here's the judge in his own way saying the same thing. Release the damn files.
Right.
And don't come knocking at my door or sending the press to me, acting like I'm covering it up by not releasing the grand jury files.
Called him out, didn't he?
That's the point of this. There's no there. He says on page 19, insofar as the motion to unseal implies that the grand jury materials are an untapped mine lode of undisclosed information about Epstein or Maxwell or Confederates, they definitely are not that. A public official, lawmaker, pundit, or ordinary citizen deeply interested or concerned who reviewed these materials expecting, based on the government's representations, to learn new information about Epstein's and Maxwell's crimes and the investigation into them would come away feeling disappointed and misled. There is no there. I'm not releasing the grand jury transcripts.
And stop lying to the
files.
people.
That's my end line for Judge Engelmeyer's 38-page order. We're going to get another one from the judge that's handling the Epstein side of the grand jury transcripts. But I wanted you to take away from this how important and powerful the way the judge starts with vindicating the victims, undermining Maxwell's argument that she's a victim in the public's mind, reminding people
stop lying, lady. You ain't no damn victim.
Handling the Epstein side of the grand jury transcripts. But I wanted you to take away from this how important and powerful the way the judge starts with vindicating the victims, undermining Maxwell's argument that she's a victim in the public's mind, reminding people of the gross and detest crimes that she committed, and then reminding the public that the Trump administration is misleading you about the definition of the Epstein files, and they should be releasing them. I'm going to continue to cover this story both here on Midas Touch and on Legal Aid.
Let me get one more. This guy, hold on. Ooh, love. Coming over here for a second. Y'all, please hit the like button. Yeah, they got court. Hold on, hold on. Get this set up right. Hey, Dante. I'm gonna have the volume up. Pump up the volume.
Actions today. A federal judge condemned Donald Trump. Friends, talk about the mother of all distractions. Today, a federal judge condemned Donald Trump and Pam Bondi's Department of Justice for their conduct in the Epstein litigation, filing those motions to unseal the Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell grand jury
I hope soon.
With the judge saying that DOJ was using, quote, demonstrably false reasoning and was creating a, quote, diversion, and adding that there's no there. So, Donald Trump needs another diversion. What does he do? He sends soldiers into the streets of Washington, D.C.
For nothing.
And seizes control of the local city police department. The D.C. city cops, MPD, the Metropolitan Police Department.
For what?
They were my partners in local crime fighting for decades when I was a prosecutor in Washington, D.C. But guess what? We will not be distracted. So let's talk about that federal judge's condemnation of Donald Trump and Pam Bondi's Department of Justice because justice matters.
Pay no attention to the man behind the green curtain. What man behind the green curtain?
Because justice.
Oh, the Wizard of Oz. What man behind the green curtain? Justice. Justice matters. The Wizard of Oz.
Hey all,
the pants pooper.
So friends, we're about to discuss some of the most scathing remarks imaginable from a federal judge. Remarks condemning the unethical conduct of Pam Bondi and her Department of Justice.
He's gonna try to get them fired,
intended to deceive the American people.
He can't fire him.
Regarding the true state of affairs in the Trump, Epstein, Maxwell scandal. Conduct designed to use the power of the Department of Justice to cover up for Donald Trump. So friends, I want to go slowly and methodically through this new reporting because I don't want it to get lost amidst the latest Trump attempt to distract. So let's turn to today's reporting. This from ABC News. Judge rejects Trump administration's request to unseal grand jury testimony in Ghislaine Maxwell case. And that article begins, a federal judge in New York has denied the Trump administration's motion to unseal grand jury testimony from the criminal case against Jeffrey Epstein associate Ghislaine Maxwell. The Trump administration has been seeking to release materials related to the investigation into Epstein, the wealthy financier and convicted sex offender who died in jail in 2019, following the blowback it received from MAGA supporters after it announced last month that no additional files would be released. Maxwell, a longtime associate of Epstein, is currently serving a 20-year prison sentence for sex trafficking and other offenses in connection with
should be.
In his 31-page opinion, U.S. District Judge Paul Engelmayer of the Southern District of New York criticized the Department of Justice for using demonstrably false reasoning to justify the release of grand jury testimony. The transcripts would not reveal new information of any consequence about Epstein and Maxwell's crimes, according to Judge Engelmayer, who suggested that the Trump administration
never asked for the transcript, y'all. Remember that. We never did.
An intentional diversion.
We asked for the files.
Quote, its entire premise that the Maxwell grand jury materials would bring to light meaningful new information about Epstein's and Maxwell's crimes, or the government's, DOJ's, investigation into them is demonstrably false, the judge wrote. Engelmayer wrote that the transcripts contain material already in the public record and lack any first-hand information about Epstein's and Maxwell's crimes. The records do not identify anyone other than Epstein or Maxwell who had sexual contact with a minor, mention any clients, shed light on their methods, or provide new information about Epstein's death, Engelmayer wrote. Judge Engelmayer also suggested that the only reason that might justify the release of the records would be to expose as disingenuous the government's, DOJ's, public explanations for moving to unseal. In other words, the judge said, there is no there. This further quote from the judge, a member of the public, appreciating that the Maxwell grand jury materials do not contribute anything to public knowledge, might conclude that the government's motion for their unsealing was aimed not at transparency, but at diversion, aimed not at full disclosure, but at the illusion of such, the judge wrote.
Deceitful.
So friends, you might ask, well, in this Epstein-Maxwell grand jury litigation, who at the Department of Justice is responsible for making those, quote, demonstrably false arguments, Pam Bondi, Todd Blanche, and Jay Clayton, 3 Donald Trump political appointees. No career DOJ lawyers, no permanent federal prosecutors, the men and women who go into federal court, all across the country every day, representing the interests of the American people. None of them were on this court filing. No, just 3 Trump appointees, 2 of whom were Donald Trump's personal attorneys previously. And frankly, I think it's fair to say, given the way they're conducting themselves, they are still acting like Donald Trump's personal lawyers, Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche. So if these were just ordinary run-of-the-mill DOJ lawyers, what would happen to them? Once a federal judge had said they're making demonstrably false arguments, they are using diversions and distractions, attorneys who are misusing DOJ's power and the courts as a diversion, misleading the public because there's no there. What would happen to those attorneys? Those attorneys would be referred to their state bar, the state in which they are licensed to practice law, referred for an ethics investigation and possible sanctions, up to and including potentially being disbarred. That's what should happen to attorneys who make demonstrably false arguments to a court. You know why? You know why? Because justice matters. And friends, I also want to talk about Donald Trump's latest attempt to distract the American people from this scathing rebuke, the ongoing cover-up of the Trump, Epstein, Maxwell scandal. And I'll be talking about that in another video, either later today or early tomorrow. But right now, I just want to let this story sit, because this is what Donald Trump is trying to distract the American people from by, deploying troops to the streets of our nation's capital and claiming he's going to seize control of the local police department and goodness knows what else. But let's remain focused on a scandal that seems to have legs like no other Trump scandal. That is the ongoing cover-up of the Trump, Epstein, Maxwell scandal, which, has got his MAGA supporters up in arms, which has Republicans in Congress bucking Donald Trump's desire to stop talking about it. Let's just let this one sit for a minute. And as always, friends, please stay safe. Please stay tuned. And I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.
Hold on.
That's the whole
war, as his latest attempt to slippery slide away from any accountability blows up in federal court. Today, in a scathing ruling, a judge essentially accusing Trump's DOJ of trying to fool the public with, quote, the illusion of transparency. Hours later, in a sign of how this is absolutely dogging Donald Trump, reporters are pressing him about that ruling. It happened during his press conference at the White House.
Oh, that's who it is. Was this today? Hold on. Oh, yeah, this was today. Hold on. He ain't trying to hear it.
Donald Trump amending war.
He ain't trying to hear it, y'all.
Slide away from any accountability.
Slide.
Court. Today, in a scathing
ruling, that's what you do. Just alone.
In uproar as his latest attempt to slide.
Who know anything about that? Hey, what you know about slide, slippery slide? Who used to saying that? That's what you do. Just sail on. Come on, get right on this fantastic voyage. There we go.
New heat on Donald Trump amid the Epstein uproar as his latest attempt to slide away from any accountability blows up in federal court. Today, in a scathing ruling, a judge essentially accusing Trump's DOJ of trying to fool the public with, quote, the illusion of transparency. Hours later, in a sign of how this is absolutely dogging Donald Trump, reporters are pressing him about that ruling. It happened during his press conference at the White House.
Thank you all. Thank you all very much.
Did he run again? Is he running?
Thank you all. Thank you all very much.
Justice Department appealed the Epstein decision today, Mr. President.
Did you hear that? Yeah, I didn't hear an answer either. Today's ruling concerned the DOJ's request to unseal grand jury material
He had to go change his diaper.
Epstein and his accomplice Ghislaine Maxwell. For weeks, legal experts have said this is a red herring, arguing most of the information is already known and likely to shed very little light on the situation.
He got up out of there.
Today, the federal judge who has seen the material echoing those criticisms and going even further, calling out and rebuking the Trump DOJ. Quote, the DOJ's entire premise that the Maxwell grand jury materials would bring to light meaningful new information about Epstein and Maxwell's crimes or the government's investigation into them is demonstrably false. Adding, quote, a member of the public appreciating that the Maxwell grand jury materials do not contribute anything to public knowledge might conclude that the government's motion for their unsealing was aimed not at transparency, but at diversion. And not at the full disclosure, but the illusion of such. It's unclear whether the DOJ will appeal as time goes by. This is certainly getting weirder.
Yeah,
Trump
it is.
veered
Wasting
from
the
calling
time.
it a, quote, hoax to saying now the Democrats are hiding something. This weekend,
Well, if your
J.D. Vance
husband
saying
smell
Trump
like a
wants to be,
pile of
quote,
shit, I
fully
guess you
transparent
look
while
old too.
admitting
The toxins
in the very
will
next
be
breath
putting
that the
wrinkles and
administration's
shit
still
on your
working on that
face.
whole transparency thing.
The president has said very clearly, because we've had other meetings about that, is that he wants us to be fully transparent and he wants the credible information out there. So we're working to compile the thousands and thousands of documents that are out there for full transparency.
A whole cabinet
Joining me
of
now
liars.
is Asha Rangappa, former FBI special agent and senior lecturer with Yale University, and Molly Jong Fast, special correspondent with Vanity Fair and an MSNBC political analyst. Thank you so much. Her latest book is How to Lose Your Mother. Asha, we'll start with you. How to Lose Your Mother. I just want to make this clear because I think that sometimes people get caught up in the sort of nuances and details of how these judges are ruling one way or another. The judge basically said, look, there's no reason to go through this fight to unseal this information because it's not going to add anything new. Is that common, right? Is it common for a judge to say that, look, unsealing this isn't going to add anything to the case, you're not going to use me as a distraction? Is that something that we see often in these kinds of investigations, or is it just another sign of how desperate Trump is to find some sort of distraction?
I don't hear.
Asha, we're having a little bit of
Sorry
trouble.
about that. Sorry about that. The Federal Rules of Criminal Procedure actually list out the exceptions for being able to release grand jury information, that it is secret unless it meets one of these exceptions. And the reasoning provided by the government here didn't meet any of those exceptions. So to answer your question, yes, it's common. The rules state that these are not released unless they meet certain criteria, which they don't in this case. So I think this was expected from the get-go. And it does seem like this was sort of a fait accompli and maybe a way to just blame the judges, like, oh, well, we can't do anything, they didn't release it. And you see the judge sort of taking pains to, you know, make clear that this was a pointless request to be made in the first place.
Right. And Molly Jong Fast, this is the thing about this. After a judge says, hey, there's nothing in here, there's nothing here, there's nothing in the magic hat, right? From a legal standpoint, what else does Trump have available to him? I mean, I know that they're probably scrambling around trying to find some other distraction, but what's the next thing that they might think of doing? Because if they can't stand on these sort of, you know, unreleased pieces of testimony and, you know, they've already moved Ghislaine Maxwell to a safer prison, What's their next legal strategy? Or are they just going to try and throw as many other things at the wall in hopes that the American people and their own base stop paying attention?
Yeah, look, I think that this is a case where they have all this information. They can just release it, right? I mean, that's it. So, this is not some tricky, new math. Like, you have thousands of pages of paper, you have videos, you have some of the stuff can't be released because obviously it's pornography, but there's certainly quite a lot that you have. Pam Bondi was bragging about having it on her desk, so maybe there wasn't a client list, but there was certainly something on her desk. The whole plan about putting, this grand jury testimony was going to be much less than what they have, and there's a much higher standard for releasing grand jury testimony. So they knew, I feel like there was this was a way to try to buy time to keep it going, right? And then, but the answer is, these people still haven't forgotten. They have all these documents. They can just release them. It's just a question of whether or not they want to release them, which, of course, they clearly do not want to release them.
Asha, I want to play this sound
They're gonna have to.
From Michael Cohen about what kinds of activities and
oversight committee is about to get it anyway. Hey, Samantha.
Get your thoughts on the other side.
As you know, I've made plenty of predictions, and I'm going to make another one here. Number one, I don't believe that Donald Trump was on Epstein's island. Now, is he in the file? Absolutely. Why? He's in the Black Book. He took free flights with Epstein down to Palm Beach. If he turns around and says that he was never on the island, rest assured, he's going to use that as the basis for why this whole thing, again, is a witch hunt against him.
So, Asha, here's the thing, and help me out here, because Michael Cohen certainly has a lot of amazing insight. Let's say Donald Trump comes out and says, yeah, I was never on the island. That's sort of the equivalent of saying, well, I wasn't in the bank when it was robbed, but I help everybody count the money and sell all the things from the safe deposit box.
If he was never on the island.
What would be the value of this administration at this point trying to nitpick and geo-track where Trump is when it's still clear that he had a relationship with Epstein?
Yeah, this is what has puzzled me from the beginning, that he has had a relationship with Jeffrey Epstein. We knew that. It's pretty obvious that he's going to surface in these files in some way, right? I mean, because this is about activity.
He has a lot. There was a Katie. Please listen. I don't know if they asked him the right questions or not. Whether he was on the island or not, he is and was a PDF filer. Okay? He was, there is a lawsuit, although dropped. Okay? Okay? With Katie Johnson that listed them together, Epstein and Trump. He's on the logs. He's in the files. And there is how else would he know who was on the island unless he was there? He is John Doe 174. So we can dance around it, play around it. If somebody wasn't on that island, then they went through some serious measures for it not to come out. Why you skip jumping a hula hoop and jumping through hoops if you were not on the island? Yeah, and how can you say who was unless you was there as well? Okay, so we're gonna stop playing slow, people. Yeah, we're not giving predators no passes. None.
Ghislaine Maxwell was actually recruiting girls from Mar-a-Lago. So, I mean, there's, he's going to be in this mix. And so this idea that he was, pushing this theory, this conspiracy theory and kind of getting people riled up, to me never made any sense, because if you know that you're in it and that's not going to be something you want out there, then why would you have done this? I want to just emphasize to Molly's point that the volume of information here is, dealing with evidence and witness interviews, victim interviews that go back to the investigation that happened in Southern District of Florida, the investigation that happened into Jeffrey Epstein that resulted in his charges, the investigation that resulted in Ghislaine Maxwell's indictment and charges, and an internal OPR investigation within the Department of Justice. You know, so they are just sitting on a huge amount of information that this grand jury testimony is just pales in comparison in terms of what they have in their possession.
I want to ask this. I want to play this out a couple weeks, maybe even a couple of months, to the potential end game here. Let's say, fine, the administration finally says we're going to release some of these files, and we see them and they're so redacted they look like piano keys on paper, right? Like we can't see anything. It's just black lines, white lines, white lines. Obviously, that brings no justice to the women who were victims, but just politically or legally, does that end it? I mean, does that end anything if they release a large number of highly redacted documents? Because it seems to me that at some point they're going to release something. I just doubt it's going to be anything that the public or any of the victims can actually use.
Well, this is the problem that I think Trump has gotten himself into. It's very hard to get out of this. Like, any way you do it, it just makes more questions and more controversy and more content, and it reminds people that it's going on. The other thing I would add is, you know, they were talking about having a bunch of people like the Clintons interviewed. Fine. Paid do it. What? That's fine. I mean, I don't think anyone, you know, we want the people who were in this file to be, you know, everybody, you know, the polling on the Epstein is like 80% of all Americans want the files released. It's like, you can't get 80% of Americans to agree on anything, okay? But you know, the thing is, if you're gonna have the Clintons talk, then you should have Alex Acosta, the guy from Trump's, you know, cabinet who did the sweetheart deal that was this like ridiculous deal where he was basically on work release.
Okay, hold on. Let's come over here. Oh, I didn't mean to do that.
Public safety emergency, saying he's activated 800 National Guard.
800 National Guards.
And has now placed the D.C. Police Department under federal control, saying that Attorney General
in the city that needs the National Guard, he ain't sending them there because it ain't benefiting him to send them there. There's no benefit. And when we kept saying, they coming to Memphis, people were saying, oh no, it has to be really a problem. And hell, it ain't no problem in DC. It wasn't no problem in LA. Yeah. But where they need to be, he ain't sending them. Yeah. Where the National Guard need to be, he don't care nothing about Memphis. Oh, it's a bunch of, they're low lives,
President Trump declaring a public safety emergency, saying he's activated 800 National Guard members in the nation's
800.
He's now placed the D.C. Police Department under federal.
He trying to make us be at war with one another. All of this is a test run, y'all. I just need for y'all to stay woke.
President Trump declaring a public safety emergency, saying he's activated 800 National Guard members in the nation's capital and has now placed the D.C. Police Department under federal control, saying that Attorney General Pam Bondi will, quote, take command. This takeover is happening as the president says that crime in the city is out of control, despite officials saying that certain crimes in the city have hit a 30-year low. Watch this.
I'm announcing a historic action to rescue our nation's capital from crime, bloodshed, bedlam, and squalor, and worse.
Oh, wow. He is such a liar.
Service
and you stupid.
To joining the Guardsmen, and that'll take place very rapidly.
And who thought that it was a good idea for him? Oh, my God.
Take us through President Trump's order and what else he's threatening, because he says he might activate the military.
That's right, Boris. He says he's kind of reserving the option to activate additional military units in Washington, D.C. if need be. He then later said he didn't think he would need them, but he's going to keep that option open. He is also considering at least expanding the National Guard deployment to other cities. He named Chicago and New York City. But let's see how this plays out in Washington, D.C. first. We do have some source reporting from 3 sources familiar with the matter saying that both the D.C. Mayor Muriel Bowser and the D.C. Metropolitan Police Chief Pamela Smith did not know of President Trump's announcement prior to when he made the announcement. They were caught kind of unaware of this prior to when he made the announcement this morning. As you see the graphic there, the president plans to mobilize some 800 National Guard members on the city streets here in D.C. to put the D.C. police under federal control. That is unprecedented, by the way. A president of the United States has never taken control of the D.C. Metropolitan Police Department before. Also, FBI agents are going to be patrolling with the police department here. That is also a very rare occurrence, according to our sources. It's very rare for FBI agents to patrol with police in a local police in any given city. Already some pushback here in the district from this, but let's first hear from President Trump. I'll get to the pushback in a moment, but here's what President Trump had to say about what he hopes the police could do in the city.
See, they fight back until you knock the hell out of them, because it's the only language they understand. You can see they want to get at it. And they're standing there, and people are spitting in their face, and they're not allowed to do anything. But now they are allowed to do whatever the hell they want.
Do whatever you want. Y'all know what that means.
To the capital city.
Y'all know what that means, right?
Surprise you.
To do whatever the hell they want.
Y'all know what that means, right?
So the hell out of them, because it's the only language they understand. You can see they want to get at it. And they're standing there, and people are spitting in their face, and they're not allowed to do anything. But now they are allowed to do whatever the hell they want.
So the president promising a very tough crackdown on crime here in D.C. And again, we mentioned some pushback to this. The D.C. Attorney General, Brian Schwab, has issued this statement, quote, "The administration's actions are unprecedented, unnecessary, and unlawful. There is no crime emergency in the District of Columbia. Violent crime in D.C. reached historic 30-year lows.
That's why he was putting them barricades up not too long ago.
This year, we are considering all of our options and will do what's necessary to protect the rights and safety of district residents." Attorney General Schwab is correct there when he says that crime is down in D.C. According to the D.C. Metropolitan Police, violent crime is down 26%, assaults with a dangerous weapon down 20%, robberies down 29%, and crime overall is at historic lows in this city, Boris. We also got.
But he sends the National Guards.
Down another 26%.
Who is he
so
sending
this year?
spitting and stuff? So he want them, because D.C. is predominantly black, right?
Attorney General Schwab is correct there when he says that crime is down in D.C. According to the D.C. Metropolitan Police, violent crime is down 26%, assaults with a dangerous weapon down 20%, robberies down 29%, and crime overall is at historic lows in
historic low.
We also got some
and he sends the National Guard.
Charles Allen of the D.C. City Council saying this is doing this under the guise of public safety.
Now, what he may be doing on the cool, because he got some threats coming. You know, he got that bounty on his head, and Iran. Even I told y'all the other day, Putin was like, if it's a war you want, it's going to be a war you get. So, you know, on the cool, it may be because he knows some shit is coming and he feels scared. Have we ever thought about that? Because crime is down, but you got some bags on your head. Yeah, them threats is coming. Yeah, let's be clear. Just scary ass.
20%, robberies down 29%, and crime overall is at historic lows in this city, Boris. We also got some pushback from council member Charles Allen of the D.C. City Council saying this is doing this under the guise of public safety is, quote, wrong. It's an extreme, outrageous, and dangerous move for the city. That is the first member of the D.C. City Council to push back in earnest to this move. Boris?
Brian, Todd, thank you so much for the reporting. Danny?
Boris, thank you. Former FBI Deputy Director and CNN Senior Law Enforcement Analyst Andrew McCabe joins us now. We also have former U.S. Attorney and former Deputy Assistant Attorney General Harry Litman. Thank you, gentlemen, for breaking down this very important story. Andrew, I want to start with
Joseph.
you.
Hey, Joseph.
From your perspective, is the purpose of this action purely to have just a massive show of force on the streets of D.C., or in practice, is there anything that will be done?
They said that he was going to have another insurrection.
Well, I mean, it's hard to say exactly what the purpose is, right? So we know what the ostensible purpose is, the facts that, or the, I don't want to even call them facts, the information that the president cited during his press conference, which of course included comparing DC to places like Baghdad and Bogota, Colombia, where we have no accurate reporting about what their crime statistics are. The fact is that the crime situation in DC is
a group of clowns
at all-time lows. They were at a 30-year low last year, and it's down an additional 26% this year. So there is no crime emergency per se in the city. So when you understand that, to try to divine what the purpose is,
he was doing what clowns do.
Assets, what this reallocation of things like FBI agent resources to patrol the streets of DC, really it raises some important questions, like what is it? Why this production? Why this kind of Potemkin village of criminal intervention in a city? What is this designed to distract us from? I don't know that I can answer that for you here, but in effect, taking a federal official and simply calling him the head of the Metropolitan Police Department changes nothing within the Metropolitan Police Department. Those sworn officers are the only people who are legally authorized to enforce the law outside of the federal properties in DC. Most of DC is not federal property. It is the property of the District of Columbia. And I should also say, to deprive the people, the citizens of the District of Columbia,
the Americans,
of the representatives who they elected. They elect a mayor, they elect a city council, they are entitled to hold those folks responsible for the crime situation and every other situation in DC. To completely replace that sort of authority with some specious federal authority is really concerning, I think, as a democratic matter, a democracy issue writ large.
Harry, I want to bring you into the conversation. Aside from what this may look like on the ground today or tomorrow in DC, it seems like the thing that actually also caught a lot of people's attention, and Brian Todd just mentioned it, was this warning that President Trump basically said that this sort of action might.
But he released a criminal.
What do you make of that?
Of minors
using internet
to go to
it should be based on
prison where there is no gates, no guards, none of that, no tower.
Other cities across the country.
What you concerned about DC and the crime is down?
Yeah, it's really an important point, because it's true that he has somewhat greater authority, a fair bit greater authority in DC itself, though everything I think that Andy says is accurate. That goes away when he's talking about Chicago, when he's talking about Los Angeles. And by the way, he mentioned only, of course, Democratic cities. The two highest cities in murder rates are both Republicans. They didn't come out.
At this point, officials still say they'll really be in support of law enforcement. Again,
did we hear that?
Administrative and logistic action might come to other cities across the country. What do you make of that?
And then he wants the guards to do whatever he want to do to him.
It's true that he has somewhat greater authority, a fair bit greater authority in D.C. itself, though everything I think that Andy says is accurate. That goes away when he's talking about Chicago, when he's talking about Los Angeles. And by the way, he mentioned only, of course, Democratic cities. The two highest cities in murder rates are both Republicans. They didn't come out.
At this point, officials still say they'll really be there in support of law enforcement. Again, with things like administrative and logistics, not necessarily more than that. But we could take a lesson from what we have just seen happen in Los Angeles, when we had a number, thousands of National Guard and active duty Marines who were also activated. In the case of the National Guard, there's still several hundred there.
Wasting time.
That was for immigration, not for crime, as President Trump has announced in this case. But it's a similar situation where they were activated for the state, but they were paid by the federal government. In that case, they were actually helping with federal law enforcement, protecting locations and protecting personnel in that case, Katie.
I'm going to go back into the Wayback Machine for 1 second, because I think this bears just bringing up. Back when D.C. was under assault, the Capitol was under assault on January 6, 2021, Donald Trump took quite a long time to call in the National Guard. This authority that he is invoking today is not one that he used in a moment of real crisis. I mean, there's not a crime wave that's currently happening in D.C., but in a moment of real crisis, when the Capitol was being assaulted, it took him some time to get the
because he initiated it.
And Katie, as Veronica was just pointing out, the crime stats, and as we've heard from Merrill,
and pardoned them.
The crime stats simply don't support the idea that there is this massive crime wave that exists here. That's why it's not really clear that the National Guard service members, the soldiers,
fake crime,
actually have to be brought
fake law and order.
It sounds as if they will be, at least at the outset, used more for a show of force, a show of presence, a deterrence for anyone who might be considering some sort of criminal activity.
All right, let's get into the can he do that aspect of it, the question that I asked up top. And I'll give that to you, Lisa. Does he have the authority to put the D.C. police under federal command?
He does, but as Monica was noting, for a limited period of time. And
but there has to be a problem.
Makes the determination about whether or not there's an emergency.
There's no threat.
So let's just pause there for a second, because query whether a court looking at that statute is going to say that the president, for example, has overstepped his authority to determine that there is such an emergency, when the statute says it's the president and his sole authority that makes that decision. But beyond that, he can only use the DC Metropolitan Police for federal purposes for a limited period of time, unless Congress steps in and extends that authorization. At the most, that period of time can be for 30 days. So even if a court weren't to second guess his judgment that there is an emergency here that justifies using the Metropolitan Police Department for emergency purposes, he gets that 30-day cap unless Congress agrees and extends it. What happens if the MPD is still under federal command and Congress hasn't acted? That's where we go, Katie, into wholly new territory, much like the first 6 or 7 months of this administration so far with respect to its use of...
Go ahead. No, I'm sorry. Give me some of the background of why D.C. has its own mayor. It's not a state, but it has its own mayor. It has its own police department. It was not always the case. It used to be a federal city.
And there are some who believe it should be solely removed from federal control. This sort of tension between, for example, DC getting its budget and its operations, like authorization from Congress, having to go before Congress every year to do this Mother May I exercise, is one that folks in DC would say needs to end. So you're right to say there was a period of time where DC was under more federal control than it is now. And yet there's a growing movement within Washington, DC for more independence than it has from the federal government to support home rule, to make DC
How would they go about
that 51st
getting that
state
authority?
Well, I think they would need some congressional authorization to do it. And Congress so far has been very hesitant to break that cord and let DC become a 51st state of the United States. Why? Because many people understand that DC, by and large, is a democratic city that, were it allowed, for example, to govern itself, it would have representation that's voting in both houses of Congress, which it doesn't have currently. It has a shadow senator, as you know, and a delegate in the House of Representatives who is non-voting, Eleanor Holmes Norton, who is a very long-serving member, but one who doesn't vote, much like other representatives of territories.
This is going to backfire. We know it is. Because what we saw the last time Trump did something similar to this was without the consent or approval.
Yeah, get the lights up. I'm going to shut it down.
Actual people elected to
I believe
serve
what
the
she's talking about.
Trump sent in the National Guard in California, right? And that led to massive protests. And if anything, it only amplified the situation. Protests always remained largely peaceful, but the protests got bigger because, in addition to protesting the actions of Trump's government, ICE and all of that, the protests also then became about opposition to Trump's weaponization of the military of the National Guard, against the citizens. The guard is supposed to protect the citizens.
Yeah.
Not be weaponized against them. And now you're seeing it happen in DC. And honestly, guys, I give less of a damn about whether this is legal or not. There are certain powers that the president can use within the District of Columbia because it's not a state. I get it. It's less egregious from a constitutional perspective than what he did in California. But I do want to make this clear. That this will be.
Yeah, I have goal sets. No one has helped me reach my goals, y'all. I have goal sets.
Lifetime against a U.S. president, really.
Like, share, subscribe, join the membership.
Anti-Iraq
support the platform.
Were the protests against Trump on his military birthday parade, which was happening at the same time that he was weaponizing the guard in California. Donald is absolutely going to push people too far. And they're going to snap back, and rightfully so.
If you know me, you know I don't hide just
okay, bye-bye.
But this, you need it in your life.
Okay. Martial art, y'all can't see it, it didn't pop up. Martial law in D.C. does not change that Trump is in the Epstein files. It don't change. That ain't going nowhere. You still in there, sir? You still in there? Hold on. You still in the files? You are still in the files. Believe that. Let me see what she was talking about. Hold on. So 3 people killed in Target parking lot in Texas. Let's hear this.
Chief of Lisa Davis, Chief of Police for Austin. The police were initially called here at 2:15 p.m. for a hot...
Sorry.
Shot call. Officers... Chief of Lisa Davis, Chief of Police for Austin. The police were initially called here at 2:15 p.m. for a hot shot call. Officers arrived within 4 minutes. When officers arrived, they were met with 3 people that were shot inside the parking lot of Target. The suspect fled the scene, stole a car from the scene, took that car, wrecked that car, then hijacked another car. He was then found by Austin PD in South Austin, where he was taken into custody after a tasing. We have 3 people that are deceased. This is a very sad day for Austin. It's a very sad day for us all. And my condolences go out to the families. At this point, looking at the suspect, we have a male white suspect who appears to be 32 years of age, does have a mental health history, but all of that is very new. This is a new, very early in the investigation at this point, but he has been apprehended. I'd like to thank our public safety partners again. It is quite amazing to arrive on scene here and see fire and EMS, Austin AISD, all here helping and supporting. At this point, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Chief Lutgritz for some words.
Good afternoon. Robert Lutgritz, Chief of Austin Travis County EMS. Austin Travis County EMS received our initial calls at around 2:19 p.m. 4 minutes later, first units arrived on scene at 2:23 p.m. The initial responding units arrived and found 3 victims. Two of those were pronounced on scene by Austin Travis County EMS. 1 was transported to a local hospital where they were pronounced at the hospital. In addition, 1 additional individual was treated on scene for unrelated injuries. At that point, I'll turn it back over to Chief Davis.
All right, we'll take a few questions, and again, understanding this is a very new investigation.
Do we know what might be hijacked, and I want to know where that car was hijacked and if the person who was driving that car was injured.
At this point, we believe that was one of the people that was shot, but it was in the Target parking lot where the first car was taken. The first car crashed. The subject then ran into, I believe it was a Volkswagen dealership.
I need 50 likes, y'all. I need 50. 50 likes, please.
What might be the shooting?
We don't have to
there was an altercation or what. At this point, we're looking at video. People that are within Target are moving out of Target. We're moving some over here to the PetSmart and the Dollar General. If their car was involved or anywhere near the scene, they're going to have to stay here until the investigation's over and get another ride out of the area. But at this point, we're not sure what. Not that anything could perpetrate this, but
no sense if it was random or if there was something that led up to it.
Exactly. Yes.
Hi, NYC 321.
Do we know how many people were in the store when it happened?
How many people were in the store? No, I don't know.
It happened outside the store, not.
It happened outside the store. Yes.
Is there anything about the victims?
We do not. I don't know anything about the victims at this point. No.
It was a child?
I don't know that yet.
We see that you take a lot of people inside of that store. What is that?
That's right. So those are, yes, that's emptying Target. We want to empty the store and reunite them and get them out of here if they were not a witness to the scene. But the cars are going to have to stay here until we're done with the scene.
Can you tell us where in South Austin the suspect was apprehended?
I'm not sure. JD, do you have an address in South Austin? 2400 block of La Costa.
Does he have any connection there, or that's just where he was found?
That's just where he was found.
Was there a chase that led you guys?
No, I believe it was a call for service. I believe the subject got out of the car. Another person called. I don't know what the behaviors were at that point. And again, we're talking, this is within the last 25, 30 minutes. So I want to get this information as quickly as possible to you. So what that call for service was, I'm not aware of. But officers responded quickly and an apprehension was made. All I know is it was a Volkswagen that was taken. I don't know if it was a Volkswagen dealership, but it was a Volkswagen. He does have a rap sheet here with us, but there is some emergency holds, detention holds.
One more question.
Again, our thoughts are with the family. This is a tragic time. Our thoughts are with the officers and EMS and fire who have to come and do the work here at the scene, forensics, everyone that's doing the scene. Again, a special thanks to AISD for coming over and helping out. It's a big scene, a lot of cooperation, and truly impressive the amount of cooperation that the city alone does together. So thank you all for coming. Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, and that was Austin Police Chief Lisa Davis telling us the latest with this investigation that they have so far. Basically, to bring you up to date with what she was saying, she said that police got the call about the shooting at around 2:15 this afternoon. She said they arrived within 4 minutes of that call. 3 people they found shot in the parking lot.
And sadly, an update to what we have been reporting, there are 3 who are deceased. We had learned earlier there were 2, but now the police updated that number to say that there were 3 people who were shot and deceased. A 4th person was treated on scene for injuries not related to this, and that the suspect in this is a 32-year-old man who was familiar to police, who had dealt with some mental health issues, who had carjacked a car after stealing one and crashing that. And that the apprehension came after a tasing. That person is in custody at this point.
As part of this as well, given the fact that this person had a mental health history, a documented mental health history, part of the investigation too now will turn to this person's ability to acquire some sort of firearm, which he clearly had, and his ability to acquire a firearm, how exactly that happened, where he may have obtained that firearm as well. That will also become part of the investigation. And in addition to that, she said this person does have a criminal history. That will be part of the investigation as well, going back into the court's file to try to figure out what that history is and looks like from a criminal perspective, whether or not that person was recently in custody, incarcerated, may have been recently released. All of those questions will be questions that will now become part of this investigation as well, given now that officers and investigators have established at least some preliminary information about their knowledge of this 32-year-old gunman.
And once the gunman is processed,
this is why I stopped shopping on Amazon, and you should too. Don't spend another dime on Amazon until you
put into the system. That's when they will possibly release his name.
That's correct. And that takes some period of time, as well as a determination about what exactly
charges he will face. It is, of course, presumable, given that there are tragically fatalities in the situation, that that person will be charged with murder. But in addition to that, in these types of major investigations, we also see a suspect facing additional charges as well. But again, trying to learn everything they can about this suspect will become a priority for law enforcement as well.
Yeah, Chief Davis calling this a sad day for Austin, saying that so many law enforcement and agencies collaborated very quickly to get this person off of the streets. He actually covered quite a bit of ground going from North Austin.
Just thinking that as well.
And apprehended in South Austin. That's about how many minutes on the road?
You know, 15, 20 in the road. And of course, another major part of this as well is what happened at the conclusion of all of this. She gave us some insight that there was a call for law enforcement service, I believe she said, by someone in South Austin. This person obviously did resist arrest in some way, given the fact that she said that a taser was deployed to take him into custody. It might be some time, though, before authorities release the full identification of that person. It can take some period of time to get someone into jail, to formally book them, and then for law enforcement investigators to release that person's identity.
Right, and of course, I know Chief Davis was talking about how she didn't really know anything about the...
Okay, y'all not going to get the lights up.
It's going to take a little bit of time
I'm going to go ahead and end
to find out who they are, to contact their families and let them know about this tragedy.
We also learned from that news conference that for the shoppers who were in the Target that were not witnesses to the actual shooting, they will be reunited with their loved ones and escorted away from the Target parking lot area.
I need 50 likes.
Witness. But if you had a car
I didn't
that's
get
in
any.
the parking lot, that car, that vehicle will have to remain there until police release it as part of their crime scene processing.
That could take some time.
That could take some time. So some of these people will have to find alternate ways to get to where they have to go.
Indeed, and as law enforcement continues their effort, again, they are going to leave no stone unturned, getting any sort of visual images they can from Target, being in touch with authorities from corporate Target as well as on-the-ground management of that store, working with them collaboratively to get any sort of information, visuals, including video, any sort of photographic evidence that may have shown whether or not this gunman entered the store or what exactly happened outside in that parking lot. But based on what the chief was describing, and this was a question that, of course, in the earliest moments of this, we were wondering, was this perhaps a random attack or whether or not the suspect and victims were known to each other. But at this point, given what she said, her statements, it is presumable that this appears to have been some sort of random attack.
We're following 3 people who have been shot and killed in a Target parking lot here on the north side of Austin. On 183, big developing story that we're following. We've got much more to unpack for you. If you're watching KVUE News at 4, we'll be right back after we take a short...
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and end it here. Hey, Jaren, thank you. I'm going to go ahead and end it, and then I'll come back in about 20 minutes on the culture. Yeah, I'm not getting the support I need over here, and I'm not going to do no 2 hours. So, see y'all later. Peace.